America is the lamb-like beast, and its horns are growing. What if the money in your bank account came with strings attached? What if it could be programmed to expire or blocked from buying things the government considers undesirable? This isn't some far-off dystopian fantasy. It's the core potential of a technology rapidly developing across the globe. As of late 2024, 134 countries, representing 98% of the world's GDP, are exploring central bank digital currency. And it might just be the mechanism that brings a 2,000-year-old biblical prophecy to life. A prophecy that pinpoints the United States as a central figure in the Earth's final events. A prophecy that seems to be unfolding right before our very eyes. In Revelation chapter 13, the Bible describes two global superpowers, shown as beasts, rising to dominate the world. A historicist interpretation identifies the first beast from the scene of the old world as the papacy. It held power for 16 years, ending in 1798, when Napoleon took the Pope prisoner, dealing a deadly blow. It's right at this point in history that the prophecy introduces a second beast. The Apostle John wrote, "Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and spoke like a dragon." 4 generations. Students of prophecy have identified this second power as the United States of America. Unlike the first beast from the sea, this nation would rise from the earth, a symbol for new, unpopulated territory. As one world power faded in 1798, another was just beginning to establish itself. The United States, having declared independence in 1776, was by then a recognized rising nation. The timing and the place are a perfect fit, but it's the character of this beast that is both the most telling and the most troubling. The prophecy says this beast has two horns, like a lamb. In the Bible's prophetic code, horns represent power. But unlike the crowned, monarchical horns of the first beast, these were different. They were lamb-like, suggesting a character that was gentle, innocent, even Christ-like in its principles. This prophetic interpretation sees these two horns as America's founding ideals: civil liberty and religious liberty. It was a nation without a king and a church without a pope. For the first time, a major nation was built on the foundation that government power comes from the people, and every person's conscience is free. This was America's lamb-like power. It presented itself to the world as a refuge for the oppressed and a symbol of freedom. For more than 2 centuries, these two principles have defined the American experiment. They have been the source of its incredible influence. But the prophecy contains a chilling twist. It says this same lamb-like nation would eventually speak like a dragon. How does a nation speak? Through its laws. The voice of a dragon is a voice of force, persecution, and control. The prophecy is predicting a shocking transformation. The nation that was once a beacon of liberty will begin using its power to force and control its citizens. This is the change we are seeing today. Those two lamb-like horns, civil and religious liberty, are now the center of a massive cultural movement. The very meaning of freedom is up to debate. We see it in heated battles in our legislatures and courts, over what people are allowed to say, what they can believe, and how they can run their lives and businesses. While there are still important victories for religious freedom, the overall pressure to conform is mounting. Legal fights are raging over the right to operate a business or even speak in public according to one's faith. These aren't just political disagreements. They are symptoms of a nation's character changing from a lamb to a dragon. This voice of force will eventually lead to what Revelation 13 calls an image to the beast. The prophecy says the United States will spearhead a global movement that copies the authority of the first beast. A union of church and state that enforces religious observance by law. It will cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. And it will enforce this control through a global economic lockdown. The Bible says it will cause everyone to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark. For centuries, it was hard to imagine how such a system of total economic control could even be possible. Not anymore. This is where the central bank digital currency, or CBDC, comes in. A CBDC is a digital version of a country's money, issued and controlled directly by the central bank. As mentioned, 134 countries are already exploring this technology. While advocates talk about efficiency, the technology carries a terrifying potential that lines up perfectly with Revelation's warning. To be clear, payment systems like FedNow are infrastructure for banks. They aren't a CBDC, and as of March 2026, the Federal Reserve has said it has no plans to issue a retail CBDC without direct authorization from Congress. But the global push is undeniable. The real danger is programmability, because the CBDC is centrally controlled. The government can build rules directly into the money itself. They could, in theory, program money to only be spent on certain products, or even make it expire if not used by a specific date. China has already tested this exact function with its digital yuan, distributing currency that could only be spent in certain places. Just think about what that means. Every transaction could be monitored, controlled, or instantly frozen. Do you hold a political or religious view that's out of favor? A digital switch could be flipped, and you'd be locked out of the economy. You wouldn't be able to buy or sell. The framework for the global system of economic control described in Revelation 13 is actively being built. Research from Project Hamilton, a joint effort by the Boston Fed and MIT, has already concluded that a centralized CBDC architecture is more effective, solidifying fears about surveillance and control. The parallels between ancient prophecy and modern technology are staggering. This isn't just a coincidence. It's the fulfillment of a divine warning. To understand what the Bible says is coming next, and how you can be ready for these final events, subscribe to this channel. In our next video, we'll take a deep dive into the mark of the beast and what you can do to stand firm. The prophecy was specific. A nation would rise from a sparsely populated land around the time. The papacy lost its power in 1798. It would be founded on gentle, lamb-like principles of civil and religious liberty, a republic with a Protestant spirit. It would grow into a global superpower, and then it would change. It would begin to speak like a dragon, using its influence to enforce a worldwide system of worship through economic power. This isn't a new interpretation. In fact, it's been taught by Seventh-day Adventists for over 170 years. For most of that time, the idea that America would enforce a global economic mark seemed impossible. Today, the pieces are locking into place with breathtaking speed. We see the nation's lamb-like principles eroding, We see the development of a technology that makes total economic control a reality. The horns that once stood for freedom are hardening, growing into the weapons of a dragon. This isn't a time for fear, but for being awake. It's a time to study, to understand, and to decide where your ultimate loyalty rests. The final act is beginning, and every single person on Earth will have a choice to make.